very much, Jim. That's awesome. I invite anybody that would like to please have a seat. We're going to start the program. We may be low on seating, but if you would like to have a seat, please do so, and we'll get underway right now. Welcome to Season 11 of TecSocial. This is episode number 112. Glad you could join us tonight. Really pleased to have Steve Duff and my co-workers from Halifax here this evening to launch Innovacorp's i3 Technology Startup Competition. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Steve to come up and take over. Steve. So just, if you bear with me 1 minute here, I'm going to do a quick presentation shift. Great. So unfortunately, the mobile mic that we were going to use this evening isn't working, which means I kind of have to stand at the podium, or if I move, I have to talk like this. So I'll try to find the right balance for that. But welcome everybody. My name's Steve Duff. I'm President and CEO with Innovacorp, Nova Scotia's early stage venture capital organization. And I'm delighted to see a lot of familiar faces here this evening. And I'm particularly encouraged to see a lot of new faces, which I think is what it's all about for the i3 competition. Before we get underway this evening, I'd like to make a couple of acknowledgements and recognitions here. So we're fortunate, we're joined this evening by two Innovacorp directors, Robert McCharles, who serves as chair of our investment committee. Welcome, Robert. And I would fail to find the right descriptor for our chair, so I'm just going to say the iconic Dr. Jackie Scott is also here this evening. Jackie, welcome. Jackie has been a very generous contributor of her time and talent to Innovacorp and is currently serving as our board chair. Welcome, Jackie. I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge a few of the team members that are with us here this evening. The i3 Technology Startup Competition is a very logistically complex organism. And to pull this off, you need a lot of talent, you need a lot of hard work and dedication. And I would like to recognize Shelley Hession over on the side of the room. Shelley, welcome. Mackenzie Keeler is hiding outside here. Hi, Mackenzie. Welcome. And of course, a man needing no introduction in Cape Breton, to the week in A, Silly, everybody knows him, Bob Pelly. So it was February 12th of 2014 that the last i3 competition winner, provincial winner, was announced. We're fortunate to have that winner in the room with us this evening, and Jim will share a few remarks with us shortly. But something very interesting also happened in February of 24, and rather than make you guess, many will be familiar with the One Nova Scotia Commission report that was also delivered in February. The urgent call to action for Nova Scotia. And in that report, it called for 19 goals and 12 game changers to put Nova Scotia back on a trajectory of socioeconomic prosperity. And there was one of those goals that in particular resonated with the Innovacorp team, and that was the goal to increase the number of startups in Nova Scotia by 50% over the next decade. So we're able to respond to that partly by finding talent from away, inviting in immigrant entrepreneurs. But this is really a Nova Scotia issue, and it needs a Nova Scotia solution. And with that solution, we need entrepreneurial feedstock from within. And that really is what the I3 competition is all about. That constant flow of entrepreneurial feedstock sometimes needs a bit of encouragement. It can be daunting to come forward with your business plan. It's a scary world out there. I don't know if I can compete with it. But usually that encouragement can come from founders in the community, entrepreneurs who have been there, done that, built companies, are building companies, and want to give back and help. So I'd like to take advantage of that this evening to have an experienced entrepreneur share a bit of a story about a company with you, maybe help encourage you to step forward with your idea for the I3 Technology Startup Competition, and encourage you and maybe even support you in helping put that proposal together. So I'm referring to Jim DeLeskie. Jim was the provincial winner of the I3 Startup Competition in 2014-2015. And Jim, could I invite you to come up and say a few words?
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me here. I just want to talk a little bit about how I got started in doing this. I had thought before many times about, I want to have my own business and could I do it and stuff. And when I first came back to Cape Breton, somebody told me about TecSocial. And I started coming to the TecSocials, and I started seeing the other entrepreneurs that started businesses here. And I thought, okay, well, wait a minute, maybe I could do this. And I went to more and more of them, and I saw more and more people that had gotten to it. And I said, okay, so there's people here I can talk to, I can kind of get an idea of what the process looks like from the idea in my head to actually starting a company. And I started a company right around the time the first, or would have been 2 I3s ago now, the submissions were just opening. And I thought, great, I'm smarter than everybody, I've got a better idea than everybody, I'm going to knock this thing out of the park. And I put together a proposal, and I thought it was fantastic. And I submitted it, and I didn't get invited to round 2. And I thought, okay, they're just wrong. And then we kept going to what we were doing, and we got to the next I3 competition when I submitted. And I took all the feedback I got along the way, and I saw that the proposal I put together was much different than the first one I put together. There was actually a lot of value to it. I thought through a lot of the ideas a lot more. The pitch I gave was infinitely different because I had actually practiced it and taken feedback from people and learned from that and seen what has to go into a good pitch. It wasn't, as much as I hate to say being an engineer, sorry, I'm in Canada, I can't call myself an engineer, a technology person, it's not about the technology. It's about actually the business with the technology and how you're going to solve those pain points for people. And I learned that through the process, and I ended up putting together a much better proposal, made it to the second round, which was great, and won not just the province, or not just the area, but the province and the tech submission itself. And part of me thought, okay, this is the same business, but I realized that as an entrepreneur, there was a great change in what I had started at and what I had learned over those 2 years in between. And we're a while past it now, and I've seen that change continue on. And really, a big part of it has been from the community here and being able to work with other entrepreneurs and help them shape their ideas and get feedback from them and see what they do well. And every pitch competition that there is, I go and I watch, and it may not be a phenomenal pitch from some people, but there'll be something in there that'll say, wow, this is really cool, this is something I can take, and make my parts better. And I think that things like I3 kind of open that up for a lot of people. And not everybody that's going to submit is going to win the first time, and they may never win, but it doesn't mean they're not going to build great businesses. One of the companies that was a finalist in the last round, I can't remember their name now, Spring, they got a Springy Lake thing.
Spring-loaded.
Spring-loaded. They just won another competition, and to me, when I saw their thing, I never saw it before the finals. I thought, hey, these guys have got something here. This is really cool, and I thought for sure they were going to win. So I was actually super surprised when I did. But it's part of that supporting each other and learning from each other. And a lot of people will ask, oh, it's great you won this money from i3. And I tell people it's not, the money obviously helps, don't get me wrong. One thing that any startup founder is going to realize is there's never enough money, you always need more. And I tell people when you're pitching, get as much as you can, as quickly as you can. But there was lots of the other pieces. So working with the people at Innovacorp and other startups, getting more involved in the startup community here. We got lots of positive feedback and positive press from winning i3, which was a huge benefit to us, because one of the big challenges that you got as a company when you're getting started is that people say, okay, so you did this, how do we know it's any good? You haven't sold this yet to anybody. You've always got that first part. And being able to go back and reference that, this was a process you went through, and that, this other group of people, business folks and entrepreneurs, they actually vetted your idea. They said, you know what, he's not crazy. This actually has some validity to it. So all of those other pieces, to me at least, were even more important than the money. The promotion you get from it, the validation that you get from it. And I just want to encourage everybody that's here to, if they've got an idea, submit something, work on it, seek out other entrepreneurs in the area. Almost, actually, everybody that I've met here, I think since I came back to Cape Breton, has been incredibly helpful in being willing to assist me in being better at what it is I do on the business side. The technology part, everybody's going to assume that you know what you're doing, and then they're not going to meddle with that unless you've got questions. But they will help you prepare your pitch, prepare your business plan, prepare your submission, practice your pitch, critique your pitch. Everybody's here to help you with that. So I just want to encourage everybody to do it. If you don't get to round 2, that's fine. Do it again the next time. Just keep working at it and adjust as needed. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. That was, in a word, inspirational. So make sure you have, if you haven't met Jim, make sure you meet him and get the best advice you can from him. He's done a lot with his startup, as he said, and he can help you with yours. I know there are some people here probably not terribly familiar with Innovacorp, so rather than listen to me drone on about the corporation, what I'd like to do is I have a quick sort of 3-minute video animation which talks about who we are, what we do, why we do it, and a bit of feedback from customers in terms of the client experience. And we gathered this information from a survey we did last fall with our clients. So with your permission, I'm going to roll this animation, and then we'll come back and talk about this year's i3.
Nova Scotia's startup scene is incredibly vibrant. We should know. We see it every day. We're Innovacorp, Nova Scotia's early-stage venture capital organization. We find, fund, and foster Nova Scotia startups in information technology, clean technology, life sciences, and oceans technology. We give entrepreneurs access to venture capital, incubation, and other supports to help them accelerate their world-changing companies. Let's just say Nova Scotia's technology startup community keeps us pretty busy. Take investment, for example. In the last 4 years, we've invested more than $24 million in 36 Nova Scotia startups. That has been leveraged by an additional $34.7 million in venture capital. Innovacorp is the most active venture capital investor in Nova Scotia, and the 6th most active in Canada, not to mention our incubation facilities, home to about 25 technology companies. And then there's everything else we do to help grow a robust startup ecosystem in Nova Scotia. So yeah, we're busy, and that's how we like it. But we wanted to know, is Innovacorp really helping Nova Scotia startups? So we found an independent expert to assess the work we do. They conducted a confidential client survey, then analyzed the data, keeping the client identities anonymous to us. The response rate was an impressive 81%. And here's what they learned. Since working with Innovacorp, the company's experienced considerable growth in market valuation, revenue, investment, and employment. Pretty incredible considering most of our clients are pre-revenue and many are pre-investment. But we wanted to know exactly how much Innovacorp contributed. The experts call it our attributed impact, which means it's our client's opinion, and that's what really matters to us. Our clients said Innovacorp had a significant impact on their economic growth. But what about their capabilities and performance? Well, our clients told us that we've improved their strategic expertise, operational expertise, ability to raise capital, ability to increase market valuation, ability to hire or retain employees, and their ability to attract investment. The message from our clients was clear. Innovacorp provides unique and valuable support. 82% said without us, their company would not have been able to access similar assistance. In fact, the data showed Innovacorp's impact is greater on companies that use more than one of our business support services. So we know we're making a difference for technology startups in Nova Scotia. And that's why we're here. Visit us at innovacorp.ca to learn more. Or give us a call. We'd love to chat.
So at the outset of that animation, you heard three words: find, fund, and foster. And that's really the essence, that's the mission of Innovacorp. We find, fund, and foster innovative Nova Scotia startups that strive to change the world. And I see a number of them in the room here this evening. So, the I3 competition actually hits all three of those: finding, funding, and fostering. We're finding this evening, we're finding in all the other zone launch announcements. We're funding through competition awards like the I3, and through our venture capital arm. We do equity investments in early stage technology companies. And this year, more than ever, the I3 competition will be fostering Nova Scotia startups with an interesting new dimension we're building into I3. So let's have a look at I3 this year. The hunt is on. So we're out to find an innovative Nova Scotia company, early stage and knowledge-based, and this is really about encouraging entrepreneurship across the entire province. We're adding some new dimensions to the I3 this year. We're adding 2 new sector awards. So historically there were 4 sectors: IT, life science, clean tech, and oceans. This year we're adding as well agricultural technology and waste diversion technology. I mentioned we're enhancing the fostering aspect, and that's through an acceleration boot camp that we're going to integrate into the competition. And finally, we're going to give entrepreneurs an opportunity to get feedback on their submission before they actually submit. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. This is the I3 zone map. Innovacorp is truly a province-wide organization that has province-wide reach. And we break the province into 5 zones for the I3 competition. The yellow dots that you see here in this display are the submissions, where the submissions came from in the last I3 startup competition. And I think we had 228 if memory serves, which was about a 60% increase over the previous competition. So we're here in Zone 5 this evening to do the I3 rollout. I mentioned the sectors that we're going to be focusing on this year. I won't repeat them. So a little bit of a flow map of how the competition's going to go. I mentioned the opportunity to submit a draft. What you will do is complete your submission template, but rather than uploading it to the website, there's a separate email address that you'll find in the documents on our website where you can submit that by October the 9th. And what we will do is provide you with feedback on your business plan, your submission form, right? If we say, you need to work a little more here on how you're going to protect your intellectual property, or we don't really understand your go-to-market strategy, can we talk about that a little more? So give you that little bit of feedback before you actually then officially submit your document. The official submission, so the 2 dates you need to keep in mind this evening are that draft submission date of October the 9th and the official due date, which is October the 15th at 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, and then the wall comes down, right? We're pretty crisp on that. At that point, we break into 2 streams. There's a zone stream and there's a sector stream, and all submissions will be considered in both streams. In the zone stream, what we're going to do is then work towards a short list in the first round. So let's say there's from zone 5, there's 50 submissions. We will in round 1 whittle that down to 5. And those 5 will then go on to a round 2, which would name the first and second prize winners, and the first prize winner would go on to the provincial final. Similarly in the sectors, so those 6 sectors I mentioned, those will be pulled together province-wide. So every IT submission in the province will be considered in that judging process. Again, we'll come to a short list of 5. We'll select a winner in the second round of the best in the sector, and that winner will go on to the provincial final. So there's a potential for the 5 zone winners going into the final and the 5 sector winners going in, so a total of 10 potentially in the final provincial round. Last time we saw there was an overlap, so the sector winner was the zone winner just because they were, an order of magnitude better. But anyway, that's the architecture for it. It's a little bit different this year, primarily because we're going to have a whole separate set of judging panels to do the sectors with a lot of expertise in those sectors. So either way, we get the best in the province going into that provincial final. So, what are the awards? What are we talking about here? So, in each zone, there will be a first and a second place winner. The first place winner has an award package of $100,000 in cash and business support services. The second place winner is $40,000 in cash and business supporting services. The sector winner, each sector prize will have a value on that award of $25,000. And then finally, the provincial winner, and that is a $100,000 seed investment from Innovacorp. So, we can't do this alone. This takes, like any ecosystem, it takes a village to raise a startup. We've had tremendous interest and support from various organizations, companies across the province. This is the village across the province. I'm not going to read them all out, but I will when I flip to the next, which is the Zone 5 sponsors. I am going to focus on these for a moment. Eastlink Business, Cox and Palmer, Sandler Training. I'm a practitioner, a disciple. I was in Sandler for 9 years. WBLI, Professional Chartered Accountants. Entrepreneurs 3.0, formerly Entrepreneurs Forum. Blue Cow Creative, Planet HR, Navigate, recent supporter, Sobey School of Business, NSCC, and of course, your Sydney Chamber of Commerce. So these are the organizations that are helping support the work of the i3 Startup Competition this year. So what do you need to be eligible for this competition? Pretty straightforward. You have to be a Nova Scotia-based startup, and you need to be focused on an innovative knowledge-based product or service. We want the entrants to be the majority owners of the business, and that you'll be working full-time in the business. It's not a hobby. We're looking for companies. Our portfolio companies are not eligible for this competition, and I3 winners from past competitions are not eligible. However, those founders, should they start a new company and put a new idea forward, they would be eligible. So let's put a little definition around some of those eligibilities. What do we mean when we say Nova Scotia based? It means the head office is in Nova Scotia, and the business will be registered here on or before December the 4th. The entrants need to apply in the zone in which the business will be operating. When we talk about startups, the criteria we're putting around that is not how old is the company or what stage of development it is. We're going to focus on revenue. So you would be eligible as a startup if cumulatively since you started your business, your revenues have been under $1 million from the outset. And we want to see an innovative, knowledge-based product or service. So the idea should have an innovative component to it. And I've had people say to me, well, I'd really like to enter this competition, but I don't have a patent or anything. You don't need a patent. But what you do need is something proprietary that you can protect, and that may be through a trade secret, it may be through a business model that you have unique expertise, maybe a unique distribution channel that's very difficult to copy. So just don't think I don't have a patent so I can't do this. But you do need to think about what's novel and what's going to differentiate you in the market. Our criteria that the judges will be using is pretty standard across the board. This is a criteria we use for the Nova Scotia First Fund when we make investments. It's a criteria we'll use for the sector awards and for the zone awards. So we're looking for an early stage knowledge-based Nova Scotia company. We're looking for people that have knowledge and expertise in the sector and in building companies. We're looking for a large growing market that you can scale into and access. A high barrier to competitive entry. And again, I think that comes back to the innovation dimension and how you're going to protect it once you're in the market. And finally, we want to see a credible plan to get to some reasonable milestones where you're going to be advancing the business. The zone, the judging, the way it'll work is we'll have zone judging panels in each zone. And each zone panel will have on it an entrepreneur, a business person, a lawyer, a chartered professional accountant, and I'll be joined by various members of the Innovacorp investment team as well. So minimum of 6 judges on here. The sector panels are going to do a little bit differently. It'll be up to 8 public and private sector individuals, but we will ensure there'll be deep sector expertise represented within that cross section of individuals. So let's just quickly run through the competition timeline. So we're rolling on our launch events now. We started here in Sydney, the fastest growing startup ecosystem apparently in Atlantic Canada, I'm reading. A great place to start our I3 launch. We're in Halifax tomorrow. We'll go after the long weekend. We're up to Truro at Perennia. We'll be at the Hub in Mahone Bay. And then on the 11th in Wolfville at the Acadia Entrepreneur Center. I mentioned the opportunity to submit an early draft. So that draft submission will be due October 9th. You'll find this email address on the package when you download it from our website. But that's where you would send the draft submission. Don't upload it. If you upload it, it means it's submitted. So if you want feedback, it goes to this email address. That's October the 9th. On October the 15th, that's your drop dead. That's when you got to have your submission uploaded on our website by 5 o'clock Atlantic Standard Time. All of this information, there's a complete kit on the website, and I3 is prominent on our website now, so you'll be able to find that no problem. We then move into the round 2, which are the zone and sector shortlist announcements, where I mentioned we're going to come up with 5 in each. And we're going to take a 2-week period after that, from November the 5th and November the 19th, and this is new this year. We're going to insert an acceleration boot camp. And this boot camp is going to have several components to it. We thought we'd kick it off in each zone by actually bringing I3 alumni together with the people that have submitted, and just letting that cross-pollinate and you know, if there are new connections to be made, make them and get advice and mentoring there. We'll do that in each of the zones. And then we go through a series of workshops. Lean Canvas, we're going to have Ash Mortar up here for a Lean Canvas session. A business model workshop, a pitch workshop. Jim's talked about the importance of getting your pitch right. A financial workshop, and specific accounting services tailor-made for each of the applicants. I mentioned the Ash Moira Lean Canvas. That's going to be on November the 18th, and I believe that will be in Halifax, Shelley, yes. And that's due to some logistical challenges that Ash had to fly out shortly after his work with us. The second round, zone and judging and sector judging, then will be taking place through December 7th to January 22nd. That will then result in the announcement of the zone and the sector winners. And then, as I mentioned, that all feeds into the provincial final, which will be at the World Trade Center in Halifax on the evening of February 3rd. Information on, that I've referred to here, you can find everything on our website at www.innovacorp.ca. There's an info kit there, you can download it. It talks about the competition, all the criteria in detail, all the prizes in detail. All your submission forms are in there. It's all template driven, so it's very user friendly to do, and it kind of it forces you to focus on, here are the things that I need to be putting some compelling, you know, commentary around to get the judges to want to hear my pitch. And so answering the questions on the forums and submitting by 5 p.m. AST on October the 15th. So that's Zone 5 I3 Technology Startup Competition for 2015-16. That's all I have to say about it. If there are any questions or comments, I or Bob or Shelley would be pleased to take them. Or Jackie or Robert.